Good evening, everyone. The August 8th, 2017 meeting of the Monroe County Legislature will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Elkoffer? Here. Mr. Ansello? Here. Mr. Baroth? Here. Ms. Boyce is excused. Mr. Brew? Here. Mrs. Brown? Here. Dr. Carbone? Here. Mrs. Conley? Here. President Daniele?
Here.
Mr. Delahanty?
Here.
Mrs. DeFlorio? Mrs. Draw? Here. Mr. Felder?
Here.
Mr. Flagler-Mitchell? Ms. Harris? Here. Mr. Hebert?
Here.
Mr. Howland?
Here.
Ms. Cayley? Here. Mr. Lightfoot is excused. Mr. Marionetti?
Here.
Mr. Michike?
Here.
Mr. Morelli?
Here.
Mr. Moyo?
Here.
Mr. Rocco?
Here.
Mr. Shepard is excused. Ms. Taylor? Here. Mr. Terp?
Here.
Mr. Wilcox?
Here.
Mr. Zal?
Here.
Please stay seated. At the request of Legislator Joshua Baroth, we will now have a moment of silent prayer. Thank you. Legislators, please stand as Legislator Joe Morelli Jr. will now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Legislator Morelli.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, please remain standing. Turn my mic on. At this time, I'll ask you to remain standing, and without objection, we will take agenda item number 30 out of regular agenda order. Agenda item number 30 is moved by Legislator Marionetti, seconded by Legislator Cindy Cayley. Will the clerk please read the resolution in memoriam for Frederick W. Lappel, former Monroe County Legislator and Irondequoit Town Supervisor.
Expressing regret of the Monroe County Legislature on the recent passing of former Monroe County Legislator and Irondequoit Town Supervisor Frederick W. Lappel. Be it resolved that the Monroe County Legislature hereby expresses its deep sympathy at the recent passing of former Monroe County Legislator and Irondequoit Town Supervisor Frederick W. Lappel. And whereas Frederick passed away at age 90 on July 3, 2017, and whereas Frederick grew up in Rochester and attended St. Michael's Grammar School and Benjamin Franklin High School. Frederick joined the Coast Guard during World War II. After returning, he was employed by Tobin Packing Company, where he worked his way up from truck driver to sales manager. And whereas Frederick was a member of the inaugural class of the Monroe County Legislature in 1967, representing the legislative district that included East Irondequoit. Later, he became the Director of Civil Service and Personnel for Monroe County. He served the town of Irondequoit as supervisor for 2 terms from 1990 to 1993. Frederick was highly involved in his community as a member of organizations such as St. Salome's Parish Council, Point Pleasant Fire Department, Kiwanis Club, Knights of Columbus, as well as many other groups. And whereas Frederick is survived by his wife Jean, children Frederick Marie Lappel, Thomas Lappel, Marie and Dan Davidson, and William and Angela Lappel, along with 13 grandchildren and 9 great-grandchildren. And whereas Frederick will be remembered as a passionate community leader and public servant who worked relentlessly for the benefit of his community, he will be greatly missed by all who knew him. Be it further resolved that the clerk of the legislature is hereby requested to forward a copy of this resolution to the bereaved family. This resolution was adopted unanimously, with each legislator rising in his or her place for a moment of silence.
Legislators, please be seated. Thank you. Your copy of the Journal of Day 8, July 11, 2017 is available on your tablet, and without exception, the journal stands approved as submitted. There is a hearing loop in place tonight to assist those who are hearing impaired. Anyone requiring assistance should inquire in the clerk's office.
If you have a cellular phone, pager, or other electronic devices in your possession, I would request that you make it inaudible for the duration of the meeting. Thank you for your cooperation.
Legislators, before we move on to the next item, I just want to bring to your attention, those of you who have been here for a couple years may remember a woman named Dawn Seymour, who this body honored a couple years ago. Dawn was a member of the Women Air Force Service Pilots, or known as WASP. She was one of very few women back in World War II who was trained to be a pilot, and she was, in those days, I guess they trained the women to be pilots to ferry the planes that were broken over the Pacific and get them back to the mainland to be repaired and sent back. Needless to say, a very dangerous job, and one that they, at that time, felt was appropriate for a woman because, whatever, won't get into detail on that. What? Because they could get it done, and she did. Well, Dawn Seymour grew up in Pittsford. She's a Monroe County resident for many, many years. Passed away a few weeks ago, 4 days after her 100th birthday. And I was kind of moved by a story. She was at her house in Canandaigua in her last days, shortly after celebrating her 100th birthday, and a bald eagle, I guess, landed outside of her window and sat on a tree outside of her window for about 2 hours and didn't move. And her family was in the room, and they took pictures and blah, blah, blah. The eagle flew away, and about an hour later she passed. So I thought that was a pretty cool, moving story, and a tribute to someone that we honored and we had the pleasure of hearing from a couple years ago in this body, and somebody that certainly left an impression on me. So I just wanted to share that with you, and thank you for listening to my story. So with that, the next item, the referrals submitted to the legislature for the next committee cycle are available on your tablet as well as online for public viewing. There are no proclamations scheduled for this evening. So at this point, we will now recess for the purpose of holding 2 public hearings. I declare open the public hearing on resolution intro number 272 of 2017, entitled Authorizing the Lease by Negotiation with the Town of Greece and any other governmental entity for data storage at the Greater Rochester International Airport, 400 Freight. I don't know if we should be saying the address of where we're storing confidential data in the city of Rochester, New York. That's what it's written on here. There being, Diana.
There are no speakers registered for this hearing.
There being none, I declare the public hearing closed and open the public hearing entitled The Repeal of Local Law Number 3 of 2014, Establishment of the County of Monroe Wireless Surcharge, and enactment of Local Law Number 308 of 2017, entitled Imposing the Wireless Communications Surcharge Pursuant to Authority of Tax Law, Section 186-G.
There are no speakers registered for this hearing.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. There being none, I declare this public hearing closed and reconvene the August 8, 2017 meeting of the Monroe County Legislature. There are no formal committee reports scheduled for this evening, but we will now hold a public forum, and I know we have several people registered to address the legislature this evening. Madam Clerk.
If you require assistance, a deputy is available to assist you in approaching the lectern. I will call 3 people forward at one time. Each speaker will have 2 minutes in which to address the legislature, and kindly conclude your remarks when the timer sounds and exit through the back of the chambers. Thank you for your cooperation. Our first 3 speakers will be Yolanda Bautista, Lexi Popovich, and Dr. Ledestri.
You can come up right through the center door here. You can sit in any of these chairs if you're waiting, and Ms. Yolanda, if you'd like to speak first.
We'll do my 2 minutes to start right now.
As soon as you start speaking.
All right, I want to talk about a topic that I know you've heard so many times before, which is Child Protective Services. I want to say that we need to redo it. They're just, if there's just one little boy raped, one little girl raped, one little boy killed, that's too many. I mean, I'm talking because that happened to my grandson, and I'm going to tell you something. It is horrible, absolutely horrible. It's a horrible thing because you have no defense. Once Child Protective Services says unfounded, even though the little boy tells you, Daddy gave me whoopings with his penis, you see an anus this big, rib, blood, sperm. If Child Protective Services gives the mother and the father, you have 2 weeks to go to the Gallisano Center so they can examine you. 2 weeks, are you kidding me? They left him there. I needed to get an attorney so I could see him again. They tell me, no, you can't do that because Child Protective Service said they didn't find no sperm. Well, the anus was big, but the mother said it was constipation. Oh. So what I said, what I saw, what I smelled, that didn't mean nothing. What the boy said, that didn't mean nothing. It meant what the mother and father said, what Child Protective Service said. I couldn't get an attorney because I'm a grandmother. I could not file for custody because it was unfounded. They told me, just go and file for visitation rights. Prove to them what a great grandma you are. You know, that was like asking Moses to make bricks without any straw. Can you imagine? I'm telling them that this little boy was raped. My daughter covered it up. But I would like very much to see my grandson. You think they're going to let me see him? I'm locked. Can't see him at all. I got telephone calls. On a telephone call, my grandson says that his blood is bleeding and it hurts. He's 3 years old. I know what's happening. I can't do nothing. I go to court again, over and over again. Now I'm blocked completely. We need new laws. Thank you.
My name is Lexi Popovich, and I'm the Community Engagement Manager at the Smoking Health Action Coalition, and I will be talking about Tobacco 21. My grandmother died of lung cancer, and she continued to smoke cigarettes as she was dying of lung cancer. Addiction is real. I have seen the real cost of tobacco unfold before me. What else is real is the 8,000 New York State youth that will become daily smokers this year alone. Do you want your children and your peers to have better access to tobacco products and start down a path of addiction? With 624 tobacco retailers in Monroe County and 55 school buildings within 1,000 feet of one or more tobacco retailers, it has become evident that raising the Monroe County sale age would prevent thousands of youth from accessing tobacco products because the majority of youth under 18 use social networks to obtain these products. But you all know the benefits of T21 policies. You know the statistical evidence that localities with T21 policies exhibit lower smoking rates, prevent and delay smoking initiation, and also reduce smoking cause deaths. This is not an argument that stands in the way of T21 policies. It is a public health versus freedom of choice argument, or some would say the over-regulation of lifestyle. We know that 18-year-olds can be criminally charged as adults, they can vote and join the military, so they should be allowed to choose whether or not they can use tobacco. That's what everyone would say. The difference is that 18-year-olds in the military aren't sneaking children into the military or providing them with guns. 18-year-olds that vote aren't sneaking younger peers into the voting booth to vote. And rarely do 18-year-olds commit crimes with 13-year-olds that get charged as adults. So why are we letting 18-year-olds buy tobacco products that are ultimately being provided to younger classmates and siblings that they know? On a county level, we can't regulate when young adults join the military or they can vote, but we can regulate the ability for sale age of tobacco. In 1964, the Surgeon General publicly acknowledged tobacco companies use marketing strategies to sustain youth recruitment, and they recognized that younger teens are more susceptible to nicotine addiction. As elected officials, you are in the position of power and responsibility to protect the health and welfare of our children. This is no longer a freedom of choice argument, it's an argument over values. Do you value tobacco companies targeting our youth as replacement smokers? Do you value limiting and preventing youth initiation and access? And do you value preventing 280,000 New York State youth from dying prematurely? Or do you value freedom of choice over the #1 preventable cause of disease and death? The question is simply, what do you value more? Thank you.
I'm speaking on behalf of Tobacco 21. My name is Dr. Cynthia Reddick-Ledestri. I am a cardiologist who has been very familiar with the agonizing ravages of tobacco addiction. I'm here today as chair of a local health coalition called the Million Hearts Committee, which, like the National Million Hearts Initiative, has a goal of preventing heart attacks and strokes. And we know that tobacco is a major risk factor for heart attacks and strokes, as well as being responsible for 90% of lung cancers. Our committee has representatives from many community organizations, including the Greater Rochester Chamber of Commerce, the Heart Association, the Lung Association, and Common Ground Health. Smoking is still the leading cause of preventable death in the United States, and we know that 96% of adults who smoke began before age 21. We know that youth are particularly vulnerable to addiction because we know that they are very susceptible to social pressures, and we know from the science that their brains and their decision-making capacity are not fully formed. The prestigious Institute of Medicine published a report a couple years ago that showed that raising the tobacco sales age would not only delay initiation of smoking for many people, but that some people, as a result, would never start smoking. So raising the minimum age of sale would have a powerful impact on public health in decreasing smoking rates, smoking-related illnesses, and smoking-related deaths. It follows that the legislation is a way of dramatically impacting health care cost as well. In New York State, annual smoking-related health care cost and productivity loss amount to $14 billion. Annual state Medicaid tobacco-related health expenditures, $5.4 billion. Businesses lose $3,700 per employee per year as a result of tobacco. And it's estimated that lifetime medical costs as a smoker are about $6,000 more than non-smokers. We know that treating serious illnesses such as smoking will get adults to quit. It is cheaper than getting adults to quit. And we know that treating serious illnesses is much more expensive than raising the tobacco age. This measure would be a lot of bang for our buck and something that both sides of the aisle could agree to would be good for the health of our community and for lowering health care costs. Thank you.
Our next three speakers are Dr. Collier, Joanne Sassa, and Michael Berger.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Kiva Collier. I'm a physician in the Preventive Medicine Residency Program in the Department of Public Health Sciences at the University of Rochester Medical Center, and I'm in support of Tobacco 21. According to the Centers for Disease Control, the 5 leading causes of death in the United States are heart disease, cancer, chronic lower respiratory diseases, stroke, and unintentional injuries. Tobacco use is a modifiable risk factor for 4 out of 5 of these causes, which makes it a major threat to public health. As of June 2017, 3 states, Hawaii, California, and New Jersey, over 240 cities and counties have passed tobacco control legislation. Oregon passed a bill in July 2017, and Maine's legislature voted to raise the age in August of 2017. Furthermore, statewide initiatives have already been proposed in 17 states across the country. Since there's no preemptive language present in state law that keeps localities from raising the minimum legal sales age to 21. Local governments have been free to enact ordinances to better protect their teens from tobacco addiction. Tobacco 21 has been adopted in several localities and counties in New York State, with Baxter Estates, a small community of just over 1,000 residents, being the 12th locality. Why? Because it has been proven to make a difference. In Needham, Massachusetts, after a Tobacco 21 policy was adopted, high school smoking rates dropped 47%, and these trends continue to be demonstrated in localities and counties across the country. Monroe County should join this effort to protect our teens from tobacco addiction too. As a physician in preventive medicine, I'm aware that delaying exposure to smoking initiation by passing Tobacco 21 will have a positive effect on my own patient population now and in the future, because evidence shows that such delays prevent teens from becoming adult smokers that are addicted to nicotine. Thank you very much.
First of all, I thank you, legislators here who govern with vision and fairness. I will discuss the damage done to our county by our activities masquerading as economic development and the role of Jeff Adair in this situation. Adair creates large swaths of tax-exempt properties which mainly undermine the impoverished city, and they are mainly for the benefit of rich developers who receive huge benefits, go beyond the 3 years required for construction, and the job requirements are practically zero. Adair champions more tax-exempt properties than any other of the 61 New York State counties. When Adair's commuter projects go sour, he has no exit plans. The talented and hungry Bob Morgan has exit plans for his millions of dollars in tax-exempt projects. Adair has nothing. Buckingham Properties, Andy Galena, and a powerful county legislator's family marina project all have exit plans. Adair's got nothing. Adair's tax-exempt properties range from $35 to $84 million per year. It's $35 million so far this year. Bob Lonsberry, the local radio wag, says that the Republican Party cannot exist without Adair's comita. I sincerely hope that some of you on this side of the aisle owe your election to more important things, to this important chamber, to more than Adair's borderline pay-to-play deals. Therefore, I ask you to replace Adair and his small-town deputy director with a person of vision and talent. I don't want my children and grandchildren to have to follow President Trump's advice to get out of New York's upstate New York. Thank you very much.
Our next three speakers are Dr. Topa, Jeff Goldblatt, and Annalisa Rogers.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. My name is Dave Topa. I am a pediatrician and partner at Pittsford Pediatric Associates in the village of Pittsford. We have the distinct honor of taking care of over 2,000 families and their children in our practice. I'm speaking on behalf of improving the funding for CPS as well as for preventive services to keep kids out of the service or out of foster care and the system to begin with. And I had drawn up a nice little speech about the financial benefits to the county, how we save money in the long run in preventing anything from incarceration to improving the health of the mother to getting mothers off of welfare to also preventing additional service costs down the line in terms of early intervention and education costs. But then, as serendipity would have it, I had a great but bittersweet well visit with a 4-year-old in my practice today. And 4 years ago, her then 15-year-old mother came to me and was pregnant. She's from one of the more affluent East Side suburbs, and we tried to get her into a nurse-family partnership program. It's a home visitation program that has been shown over the years to prevent poor outcomes in exactly this situation. We could not get it done. There were no slots. So let's fast forward to now. The little girl is in with her great-grandmother. Mother's not very much involved anymore. She succumbed to drug abuse. She's bouncing between great-grandmother's house, grandmother's house, a few other family members. And I've never heard one family member look at me during this whole visit and say, "It's so sad. It's so sad." And part of me sat there and just nodded because I knew right then that we'd lost this girl. So if we'd had the opportunity to provide nurse-family partnership program, if we had fully funded it 4 years ago, this girl would be in a much better spot now. But I don't know how many of you have ever had the opportunity to look a 4-year-old in the face and say, everything's going to be okay, but yet not really mean it. So in addition to all the financial benefits of nurse-family partnership and preventive services, keep in mind the moral argument as well. I'm tired of watching these kids just fall into the system and disappear. Thank you.
I'm speaking this evening as an independent solid waste advisor. When it comes to recycling in Monroe County, the songwriter Randy Newman said it best. It's a jungle out there for 2 basic reasons. A, contamination, and B, lost tonnage. This is happening both residentially and commercially. How do I know? I look, which is more than what most people do, and how I can stand up here and hopefully speak semi-intelligently about this. It's also worth noting that most people still do not know about Eco Park or believe that the facility is inconveniently located, which it is. And most people still don't know about the Western New York Materials Exchange. That's been in existence since 1982. Monroe County is a participant. I'll bet over 90% of most people don't know about it, and it's free, which fits into most people's budgets. Monroe County exists under a 60% commitment to New York State that comes due in just a few years. Currently, you're only at 38%. Onondaga County, the Syracuse area, is already at 60%. We have some high stepping to do, and some re-educating to do, and maybe some hand-holding to do. But you can't wait till January 24, 2024 and say, oh my God, what are we going to do? That conversation needs to happen now. The bottom line to this is very simple. If any of you in this room believe that the situation is just fine and completely under control, let me politely suggest you've been out in the rain too long. And that's my message. And I beat the bell.
Good evening. My name is Annalisa Rogers. I work with the Smoking Health Action Coalition, and I'm here today to talk to you about T21 as well as to talk about e-cig use. There's a significant number of adults and youth that are using electronic cigarettes currently, which it provides a relatively new way to deliver the addictive substance nicotine without burning tobacco. There are still a lot of questions regarding the long-term health effects, and it's not clear whether these products will help people quit, discourage smokers from quitting completely, or lead to a new nicotine addiction. There's a 2016 report from the Surgeon General that noted gaps in scientific evidence, and the products themselves, as well as the patterns of use, are changing quickly. However, the Surgeon General also found that e-cigarette use among U.S. youth and young adults is now a major public health concern. The Surgeon General noted that while we continue to learn more about e-cigarettes, we currently have enough information to protect our county's youth from being harmed by these products. Some of the major concerns include the long-term effects. According to the Surgeon General reports, the e-cig aerosol isn't harmless. It can contain harmful and potentially harmful products, including nicotine. The nicotine present in e-cigarette aerosol is absorbed by users as well as bystanders. Some of the items that have been found in it include formaldehyde, nitrosamines, as well as nickel and lead. These products are harmful products indeed. Because the FDA has begun to regulate e-cigarettes, there are hundreds of different brands. There is no way for consumers to know for sure yet what exactly is in that aerosol product. And even some of the items that are labeled as safe are safe for consumption, not necessarily safe for inhalation, which is very different. Another major concern is the marketing. Traditional tobacco products sell more than market $25 million a day for tobacco products. That does not include what they're currently doing with e-cigs. And with e-cigs, it is suggested that there's about $5.6 million from 2010 that has increased to $115 in expenditures for marketing and tobacco products. There's growing support for e-cig regulation, and I'm hoping that when you're considering tobacco marketing and adopting policies like T21, you'll also consider e-cig as a part of that policy as well. Thank you.
Our last three speakers are Bridget Hurley, Dan McDonald, and Michael Berger.
Good evening. I'm here to talk tonight about Child Protective Services, and my numbers aren't going to be anywhere near as powerful as the stories that you've heard, but maybe they can help us to understand that those stories aren't unique and that they're repeated in our community over and over again. So just as a reminder, the budget that you passed last December included a projection that there would be 27 reports of child neglect and abuse here in Monroe County every day. 27 reports every day in Monroe County. About a quarter of those will be founded or will be found to have merit. So we're talking about 6 or 7 reports every day coming in of founded child abuse and neglect. So just to take this out nationally, there was a report that was published last year that you probably will be hearing about in the news. It's called Within Our Reach. It was a national commission on child abuse fatalities. So this was on a particularly troubling aspect of child abuse and neglect, where a child actually dies, as happened in our community last November. So I'm just going to share with you a couple of findings and then a couple of recommendations that came out of this 2-year commission process, and we'll see if I can beat the bell too. So an estimated 4 to 8 children every day in the United States dies from child abuse and neglect. 4 to 8 children every day. They're overwhelmingly young. 75% are under 3 years of age, and a half are less than a year old. So these are very young, vulnerable children. The second point, the best predictor of injury, death, and I think this is really interesting, is a call to a child protection hotline. So the best predictor of a death from child abuse and neglect is a call. So what that means is by the time that call is made, didn't do it again. By the time that call is made, there are already forces in that child's life that are leading to the tragic outcome. We need more and better data, and we need more of the nurse-family partnership. There was only one program found by this commission to be effective in preventing child abuse fatalities, and it was the nurse-family partnership, which of course we have here in Monroe County. Their recommendations centered on leadership and accountability at all levels of government, better data and research, and prevention, 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 prevention. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Dan McDonald. I've been here well over a year now. First, I just wanted to say I didn't come last month. I was on vacation. And the month before that, I want to apologize to you all. I went a little bit harsh, which isn't necessarily my demeanor, although my message still stands. Maybe I didn't deliver it quite correctly. I don't want anybody to lose sight of what's going on here. Many of you from both sides of the aisle over the last month and a half have called me. I appreciate that. I noticed there's been some news or some talk about it on the radio. That was not me that called, but I just heard about it. And I think it's going to continue. I hope we can all work together and finally get something done. As you know, you've all heard from the Veterans Business Council. I've spoken to many other veterans groups. It's the right thing to do. It's the just thing to do. And like I've said in the past, you know, please try to show us the courage that we showed you. For instance, this will be the last meeting I'll be coming to with my son home. He leaves in 11 days. No, the 21st, to go to Parris Island for 4 years. I hope he can return to a veteran-friendly county, as there are other counties. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Michael Berger. It's my first time here. It's a beautiful room. I'm coming to speak about the Child Protective Services issue in front of you and to encourage you to vote for more funding to get the right number of people to look at the number of cases they have. Initially, I was going to talk to you about the financial reasons why this makes sense and that it's a fiscally sound plan. I wouldn't support it if it wasn't, because ultimately we have to be able to pay for what we want. But I think you've heard that and you know it, and there's plenty of data out there to support it on the web. There are handouts, and if anyone wants them, call me and I'll get you more than you want to read. But I wanted to tell you another reason why you should vote for this. You need time to find out whether a kid is being abused. It requires knowing that kid. They won't tell you. You have to know the kid. You have to notice when the child's gait changes. Notice if their eyes are rolling back into their head, if they're having some other issues in their life. Some will get lucky, but most won't. Most of the kids who are suffering from abuse, it's going to be someone who they know, someone they trust, and they're going to believe that it's their fault. And they're going to believe not only that anyone who cares about them must know about it and must be consenting to it. That's obviously not what's going on, but that's what the kid will think. It doesn't matter if the kid's father says to him, "Hey, how's your stepdad treating you?" He's going to say, "Fine, Dad." Only if there's someone who's trained and they have the time to actually make the visit and know that kid are you going to save them. It's important. Thank you.
Thank you.
This concludes the public forum.
Legislators, we will now proceed with the consideration of local laws. Will the clerk please read the first item on the agenda?
Item number 1, referral 17-0196 LL.
Moved by legislator Connolly, seconded by legislator Draw. This is a motion to lift from the table. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Next item.
Item number 2, referral 17-0196 LL.
Moved by legislator Connolly, seconded by legislator Draw. This is to adopt. Is there any discussion? Legislator Cayley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I had requested at the last committee meeting, or the last time that we spoke on this in chambers, that we get an idea of what the security protocol would be, and I was told that we would have one by the time of the vote. We do not have any information on that. Can you update me at all as to when this will be concluded?
Through you, Mr. President, the security protocol will be identified and agreed upon at the time that we provide the town the lease.
Thank you. Through the President to the administration, that was not the answer that was given when I answered it, when I asked it before, and it does give me some pause that there is it possible that the agreement would be different or the policy procedure would be different with different entities?
Through you, Mr. President, no, it would not. The nature of the building and the access into the facility is such that it would be the same for all that had access to that location.
Thank you. And then I will explain my vote. I will be voting in the positive for this. I think that it should go forward. However, I am concerned. The agreement with Greece is on the table, and they will be accessing the property, and I don't understand why we can't have a protocol in place now for security within accessing of the building in the beginning with the installation and then ongoing when engineers need to go in for any type of updating, what have you. I just think that it should come at the same time that the agreement, prior to the agreement. But I would hope that when the agreement is in writing that you provide us with a copy of it. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. President, we will definitely do that to the extent that we'll share the information, hopefully to the satisfaction to not only the minority leader but other members of the legislature, but I think we're going to reserve the right to not disclose anything that would otherwise compromise security in the facility.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 3, referral 17-0208 LL.
Moved by legislator Michike, seconded by legislator Draw. This is a motion to lift. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 4, referral 17-0208 LL.
Moved by legislator Michike, seconded by legislator Draw. This is to adopt. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 5, referral 17-0220 LL.
Moved by legislator Connolly, seconded by legislator Michike. This is for introductory purposes only. The next item, please.
Item number 6, referral 17-0220 LL.
Moved by legislator Connolly, seconded by legislator Michike. This is a motion to table. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 7, referral 17-0220 LL.
Moved by legislator Connolly, seconded by legislator Michike. This is to set a public hearing. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 8, referral 17-0221 LL.
Moved by legislator Connolly, seconded by legislator Draw. This again is for introductory purposes only. Next item, please.
Item number 9, referral 17-0221 LL.
Moved by legislator Connolly, seconded by legislator Draw. This is a motion to table. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 10, referral 17-0221 LL.
Moved by legislator Connolly, seconded by legislator Draw. This is to set a public hearing. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item. We will now proceed with the consideration of motions, resolutions, and notices. Will the clerk please read the next item on the agenda?
Item number 11, referral 17-0183.
Moved by legislator DeFlorio, seconded by legislator Brew. This is a motion to lift. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 12, referral 17-0183.
Moved by legislator DeFlorio, seconded by legislator Brew. This is to adopt. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 13, referral 17-0207.
Moved by legislator Terp, seconded by legislator Draw. This is a motion to lift from the table. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 14, referral 17-0207.
Moved by legislator Terp, seconded by legislator Draw. This is to adopt. Is there any discussion? Being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 15, referral 17-0211.
Moved by legislator Connolly, seconded by legislator Taylor. This is to adopt. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 16, referral 17-0212.
Moved by legislator Michike, seconded by legislator Draw. This is to adopt. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 17, referral 17-0213.
Moved by legislator Michike, seconded by legislator Draw. This is to adopt. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 18, referral 17-0214.
Moved by legislators Zale, seconded by legislators Michike and Draw. This is to adopt. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. The item carries. Next item.
Item number 19, referral 17-0215.
Moved by legislator Howland, seconded by legislator Draw. This is to adopt. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 20, referral 17-0216.
Moved by legislator Taylor, seconded by legislator Draw. This is to adopt. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 21, referral 17-0217.
Moved by legislator Taylor, seconded by legislator Draw. This is to adopt. Legislator Muyo.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd just like to rise to explain my vote. I had a number of questions about this referral in committee. Most of them were answered to my satisfaction, seeing as how we've been engaged in a contract like this for almost 20 years. And I do want the religious needs of the members of the Monroe Community Hospital met. I will be voting in the positive. I'll be voting yes on this. I'm not a constitutional law scholar, but I do think there might be a problem embedded in this. However, like I said, not an expert, so I'll be voting yes. Thank you.
Thank you, legislator. Is there any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 22, referral 17-0218.
Moved by legislator Taylor, seconded by legislator Draw. This is to adopt. Legislator Cayley.
Rise to explain my vote. I will be voting in positive. I know that I questioned this in committees, and I still question, but I also take into consideration that the writers of this project, this pilot, have taken a little bit of what was said during committee into consideration and have added an additional location for this aging program to start. I will say, however, even though I am voting in the affirmative, I still firmly believe that this should have been offered at one of the free agencies within the city of Rochester, where there are a large number of a large aging population that could be of great use in this pilot and gain a great deal from it. But thank you for listening to our considerations, and I'll be in the affirmative.
Thank you, legislator. Is there any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 23, referral 17-0219.
Moved by legislator Draw, seconded by legislator Hebert. This is to adopt. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 24, referral 17-0222.
Moved by legislator Draw, seconded by legislator Hebert. This is to adopt. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 25, referral 17-0223.
Moved by legislator Draw, seconded by legislator Hebert. This is to adopt. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 26, referral 17-0224.
Moved by legislator Connolly, seconded by legislator Taylor. This is to adopt. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 27, referral 17-0225.
Moved by legislator Draw, seconded by legislator Hebert. This is to adopt. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 28, referral 17-0226.
Moved by legislator Brew, seconded by legislator Draw. This is to adopt. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 29, referral 17-0227.
Moved by legislator Draw, seconded by legislator Hebert. This is to adopt. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 31, referral 17-0230 LL.
Moved by legislator Marionetti, seconded by legislator Rocco. This is to adopt, and as a matter of discussion, I'd like to note that on this local law was determined by the county executive to be a matter of necessity based on the short time frame given by the state of New York in enacting legislation enabling Monroe County, this Monroe County legislative body, to take local action on this matter. The county executive has requested that this honorable body address it as such tonight. Pursuant to Section A4-5B of the Monroe County Administrative Code, it will require an affirmative vote of 2/3 of this body in order for the total voting power of the legislature to order it to pass. Now, given that, is there any discussion? Legislator Baroff.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate the distinction between the matter of necessity and the matter of urgency, and thank you for the clarification. I have a few questions for the administration regarding this. I understand that this is something we need to move quickly on, but my first question is how is the amount of $500,000 arrived at by the administration for this matter of necessity through the President?
Through the President, through conversations with the assessors in the various communities that are part of the eligibility and reviewing the potential claims that may come, we looked at the improved assessment value of all of the properties in the affected towns and took a reasonable percentage of their improved value and derived based on last year's tax rates.
Thank you. So through the President to the administration, is it fair to say that $500,000 is a rough estimate of what the total cost would be if all the affected properties applied for this assessment relief?
Through the President, based on, again, the conversations with the assessing officers and property owners that had come in, we believe that it is a fair assessment.
Thank you. So the assumption is, through the President, that anyone who is affected will be covered by this, barring some huge surprise.
Through the President, based on the requirements in the Relief Act, if they do the application with the necessary proof of loss, yes.
Thank you. And through the President to the administration, when would be the deadline for such an application for relief?
Through the President, based on the law that was adopted by and signed by the Governor November 10th.
Thank you. And through the President to the administration, am I correct to assume that the administration did not anticipate this $500 relief plan when the 2017 budget was constructed?
Through the Chair, that's correct.
Thank you. Through the President to the administration, where is this $500,000 coming from in the 2017 approved budget?
Mr. President, with this local law, we are asking the legislature to amend the 2017 budget.
Yes, I understand. Through the President to the administration, however, where are the funds, $500,000, coming from that we're going to be placing into the general fund?
Mr. President, we are requesting that this body appropriate $500,000 in Fund Center 120902 County General. That is part of the general fund.
So essentially, through the President, what the administration is positing is that we have $500,000 sitting around that can be used for this purpose.
Mr. President, I guess I didn't understand the question. Apparently the legislator is asking, where's the cash coming from?
The funds.
Mr. President, Monroe County will be advancing the cash to these homeowners and then recouping that amount on the 2018 tax bill.
Thank you. So through the President to the administration, essentially this relief is a temporary one-time relief that we will in fact not have to pay for at the end of the day, that the homeowners in fact will. Which is what they said, right?
Mr. President, I think I understand the question. It's interesting to phrase it that we won't have to pay for it at the end of the day. We're providing the assessment relief upon application later this year, and then we'll re-tax countywide to recoup that amount. So I guess if we categorize that as we won't have to pay for it at the end of the day, that would be okay.
So if I understand correctly through the President, what you're indicating to me is that those property owners who have suffered this loss of property due to erosion and such, that they will be, in fact, saving a total amount of approximately $500,000 on their tax assessment, and that the county as a whole will make up this $500,000 in 2018. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. President.
Through the President's administration, is there any sort of income or means-based testing on who may take advantage of this funding relief?
Through the President, there is not.
So to the administration, is it correct to assume that someone who is extremely well-to-do and someone who is very poorly well-to-do who might be living on the coast will benefit equally from this through the President?
Through the President, all property owners that meet the requirements of the Relief Act are eligible based on the language in the Relief Act.
Through the President to the administration, is it possible for the county to amend this referral to modify it if we so wish and would not conflict with the state, what the state has passed that we're responding to?
Through the President, no.
So we do not, through the President, have the opportunity to, for example, put any sort of means test on who may take advantage of this. Is that correct?
Through the President, that's correct.
I'm appalled. Thank you. I hope someone else asks a question. I need to think for a few moments. Thank you very much.
Legislator Cayley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just would ask a general question for anyone that doesn't quite understand what's happening here, since this is a matter of urgency. Could I ask the administration to please explain the program that we have been talking about?
Sure. Through the President, based on the Relief Act that was adopted by the state, anyone that lives along the Lake Ontario Shoreway or any connected waterway that has improvement damage, which excludes erosion, break walls, docks, it's only improvements that meets the criteria of 10% or more will be given assessment relief based on the level that they are approved for.
Thank you. And through the President, there are like 3 levels of monies that are explained here. When you say improvements to the property, but excluding docks and waterfront, are you excluding lost land?
Through the President, yes.
So when we're talking about, through the President, when we're talking about a loss, we're talking about a physical structure?
Through the President, that would be correct. It would be your home or business
All right, thank
structure.
you. And then through the president, if, this is where I have a little bit of a problem, thank you to you. If someone loses their front porch of their structure, it would then be considered an improvement to replace it?
Through the president, that's correct.
And thank you. Then through the president to you, if I lost my front porch and it was in my assessment, but I'm not being reassessed, and it's being stayed at the same rate, I'm confused on this. So I don't quite understand assessment rules. So maybe you could explain that to me.
Through the president, I'm not quite sure I understand, your question.
All right, well, let me say it this way. Through the president, I have a first residence on the lake, and the water has removed my front porch. That's damage to my property, but in assessment language, it's considered when you place it or put it back on, that it's now included as an improvement?
Through the president, your front porch would always have been considered an improvement.
But if I lost it, thank you, I'm sorry, through the president.
Right, okay, so let me kind of back up. So based on assessment in real property tax law, okay, as of March 1st of 2016, or 2017, I'm sorry, March 1st of 2017, your porch was there and your porch was assessed,
Right.
okay? You lost it in April. You're still going to be assessed for it for your 2017, 2018 school tax and your 2018 county tax. It's not going to go away just because you lost it in April, okay? It would be no different than if on March 1st your house was there and on March 2nd it burned down. You're still going to pay taxes based on the house being there. So this allows for the fact that you had a loss that by normal real property tax law, couldn't be reduced. So that's the difference between, what typically happens and what this act allows for.
All right, thank you. So then through the president, it's not necessarily true that my assessment would go up if I replaced in same.
If you're replacing in same, typically I would say no, your assessment's not going to go up. But all of the decisions with regards to assessments are the decision of the municipality's assessor.
All right, thank you. And then through the president to the administration, I personally think, and I could be very wrong, that $500,000 is a bit short of the mark. Is there a cutoff point, or if claims rise above $500,000, is the county going to go forward with that, or are there going to be people left out?
Through the president, the $500,000 was, a good estimate, based on, my conversations with the towns and, what damage they've been made aware of to this point. If the legislature adopts this, no one gets left out.
Thank you. Then if I understand you correctly through the president, if the claims go over $500,000, those that go over will not be left out.
Through the president, that's correct.
Thank you.
Legislator Wilcox.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, say that I think this is well-intended legislation, and I'm prepared to vote for it. But I have a couple questions I would like to ask through you, Mr. President. Do we have any idea how many properties would be affected or are affected that would be eligible? Do we have a number approximately?
Through the president, we do not.
Okay. So we found $500,000 to spend on a number of properties that we don't know. We can't identify the number of properties. Do we know, through you, Mr. President, how many CPS investigators could be funded with $500,000? I think it's relevant, Mr. President, because I'm trying to decide whether or not I want to vote for this based on the answer. I'm trying to figure out whether or not we have our priorities straight here in Monroe County, whether or not it's relevant to you, Mr. Majority Leader. I apologize. It's relevant to me.
Mr. President, my point was it's not relevant to the referral, not whether it's relevant to myself. It's not relevant to this referral.
Through you, Mr. President, it's relevant to me in making my decision, depending on how many CPS workers could be funded with this $500,000. We clearly don't know how many properties could be funded. I would like to know if we know how many CPS investigators could be funded.
Well, while I appreciate your question, I understand what the intent of your question is. You know, asking how much does a CPS worker cost the county, which is what you're asking, is not relevant to this referral. I do know we've had this discussion before, because we've certainly had legislation and the budget before us where that was a fair and rational question. I don't believe that's that's pertinent to this referral that we have in front of us.
Mr. President, we obviously felt, or the administration obviously felt, that in terms of matter of priorities, we are going to prioritize a number of homeowners which we can't even identify, the number, over children that are being abused and neglected. I think it would be reasonable to ask you how many positions we could fund with this, because we're being asked to make a decision how to spend $500,000, $500,000. I think it's completely reasonable to ask how many positions they could fund.
I'm going to uphold, or I'm going to agree that with the point of order, you know, my take on it is you do have certainly the right not to vote for this if you don't feel it's an appropriate use of funds.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? There being no further discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. I have one no. Are there any other no's? I have one no. Item passes. Next item.
Item number 32, referral 17-0231.
Moved by legislator Terp, seconded by legislator Draw. This is to adopt. Is there any discussion? Legislator Muyo.
Mr. President, I didn't raise my...
Oh, I'm sorry. Legislator Broth.
Sure.
I thought that's what you meant.
Sorry.
Just one quick question. I just want to ask through the President to the administration, why is this a matter of urgency?
Through you, Mr. President, as you know, we are currently in construction with our Phase 1A master plan improvements at the Seneca Park Zoo. The reason that this is a matter of urgency is that we have 3 utility poles that are running through the middle of our Africa Savannah expansion. This would allow RG&E to bury those lines that are connected to those poles and grant them access.
Thank you. So through the President of the Administration, am I correct to assume this work is going to occur within the next month or so?
They will occur Thursday.
I see the matter of urgency.
There you go.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Item number 33, referral 17-0232.
Moved by legislator Zale, seconded by legislator Draw. This is to adopt. Is there any discussion? Legislator Cayley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to ask why this is a matter of urgency. Sorry.
Through you, Mr. President, this comes before this body as a matter of urgency after the City of Rochester passed an ordinance in the last City Council meeting authorizing the mayor to enter in such an agreement. As legislators are aware, we require other municipalities to pass their ordinance or their resolution first. That having been accomplished, we have been in frequent communications with the RPD, who have urged us to pass this at the next available opportunity. So it is at the request of the RPD, who has been seeking to get this in place in an expedient fashion.
Thank you. And then I do have a question or two, if I may, Mr. President, through you to the administration about approximately four officers. Perhaps we could just explain this from the administration's point of view as to how this is going to work.
Through you, Mr. President, this agreement will allow for the access of the electronic pistol permit database by the Rochester Police Department in a fashion similar to what the Monroe County Sheriff's Department currently is able to do, given the fact that the city of Rochester's RPD is obviously from a different municipality. The requirement would be for us to authorize and enter into an intermunicipal agreement. This allows officers, 4 officers, and there's a schedule that would be included in the agreement. There'd be a field intelligence investigator, a firearms coordinator, and 2 individuals from the licensing investigation unit that would have access to the database for purposes of doing criminal investigations, and activities concerning suspension of pistol permits and reviews and background checks as it relates to pistol permit applications.
Thank you. And then through the administration, is there any type of security protocol that's in force with this particular database that the officers will be accessing?
Through you, Mr. President, are you asking whether or not there is a specific level of encryption involved, or the way it would work would be that RPD would have a terminal and a point of access that their officers would be able to log into the system and access the database to retrieve records on a read and review purpose or basis only, and it's done through software that coordinates with the existing system.
Thank you. Then if I understand it, they have a portal through the president that they can enter through with a password, and that's as far as they can go.
That is correct.
Thank you. I think this is a particularly good use. Again, wanting to know that there is security here when you have governments going from one end to another. I'm going to vote in the affirmative for it. One thing that I wondered if, through the president to the administration, would there be a real-time reporting or end of a quarter or end of year reporting of the number of times that the database was accessed and the type of access, the type of reports that were taken, or are the reports just all-inclusive?
Through you, Mr. President, the city, per the agreement, the city shall maintain a record of all inquiries and or searches that will be made of the system and provide copies of the records maintained of all inquiries and or searches made in the system by the city to the Monroe County Clerk's Office.
Thank you. Through the president, is that upon request or as a matter of fact?
It's in the agreement, it's stated as shall.
Shall.
So they're obligated to do that per the agreement.
Thank you. And then through the president, how often would that happen? Is that on a yearly basis?
Through you, Mr. President, that's not currently specified in the agreement.
Thank you. Then I'm still voting in the affirmative. If through the president to the administration, if we could get some idea of what the reporting schedule would be whenever it's decided, I would be appreciative.
Through you, Mr. President, we'd be happy to do that. The agreement is not a final document at this time, as legislators are aware that this is a request for authorization to enter into such an agreement. So it is an item that would be negotiated back and forth by the city and the county, and that item probably will now be addressed.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. There being no unfinished business, Legislator Marionetti.
and adjourned until 6 p.m. Tuesday, September 12th, 2017.